Got some Oldsmobile parts for this Caddy. Yeah, that kind of part. Oh, look at the used part I got. Yeah, I kind of figured that out right away. For those of you who don't know, when you're buying a used engine, you gotta, feel the person out that's buying it. Like this guy in particular, he was taking out this motor, he was reusing the transmission, which was a 204R, so you could put a Chevy engine behind it too. He prefers Chevy. He said there was nothing wrong with it. He bought it cheap, the car, and he just wanted to sell the engine. And, and I got the engine cheap. That being said, had a feeling, something like that. He said it had over 200,000 miles on it. I went to go look at the car, and I said, oh, can I check out your car? Because he started fixing it up already. And the odometer said 28,000 and change. I mean, some people just can't read, the, what do you call it? The odometer right, It's like, it's such a travesty. But I knew, I'm like, there's no way. I mean, if it's 200 and something thousand miles, then it's going to have an impeccable maintenance. Which I wouldn't say this is impeccable maintenance, but it was running. Had to be running, in my opinion. Oil was black, but it was good, And the thing is, if you have over 200,000 miles, this is the original timing gear, the aluminum with the plastic teeth that are starting to chip away. Nobody put an original GM chain in there, and I don't even know if you can get it. That being said, that way it's 128,000, especially when if you keep between not being able to read the odometer right and seeing, because these things don't really last much more than 130,000, and it was ready to go. This was causing some problems, and there's a brand new carburetor on it, so which goes to show me the guy was trying to fix it, whoever had the car before, and it never quite ran right. This guy said it ran okay, but it might have idled okay, because that's all he really did with it. As soon as you put a load on it, that becomes a factor, So this car is going to have new life as far as I'm concerned. I'm going to go over some of the gaskets. I'm going to definitely change the exhaust manifolds over from the old engine, which completely blew up the heads. The heads were already done once, and it had Fel-Pro gaskets. So being that it had Fel-Pro gaskets, it was changed. And I had to use a 3-foot pry bar to pry the heads off the engine. And I knew something was wrong. He said the temperature light never went on. He didn't know it was overheating until he saw a lot of smoke. And machine shop said one of the heads are cracked. So, not on this engine, on that engine. So, in the end, what else? In the end, you have an engine that has 130,000 miles also. Already had the heads done once. It's going to need the heads done again, and I need to buy a used head and then have it rebuilt. Just put a used engine in and just slap it together and hope for the best. And worst case scenario, you have the old head, the old block. And I don't trust the old block. The old block to me looked like it had a crack in it too, but it's very hard to tell in the car. So yeah, this is what we're doing. Stripping this down, getting the other manifolds on. I'm going to probably change the valve cover gaskets. Not the intake. I'll change the thermostat, the water pump, which was a brand new water pump. He had the water pump changed, but we don't know if it overheated because of the water pump or if it overheated because of the what do you call it? Of a number of things. So we'll find out when everything's all said and done. So I'm going to put that water pump on. I guarantee they didn't do the timing chain, and I guarantee his timing chain is probably just like this one. Yeah, that doesn't last 228,000. So if the odometer says 28,000, it's 128. Like how would you know it's 228,000? But he was looking at the odometer and said, oh, look, it's over 200,000. It said 28 to start with. I'm like, this guy thought this engine had 280,000 miles. I mean, so I'm going to start stripping this down and get it prepped. But I think it's going to run pretty good. He said it ran pretty good. I trusted him at that part, but the guy was kind of like sort of handicapped in the head. And I think he didn't realize what he was looking at as far as mileage and whatnot. So I'm going to use my engine lifting plate to do the engine and take this off. I'll probably use this carburetor because it does look brand new. It probably will work very well with it, being that the other issue is going to be solved. And we'll see if things are different like this. See, like I had a feeling he had a different heater valve. Now I really feel this is like emission control stuff. Oh, wait a minute, that had a screw in it. That's right. They had it up here, and these are never used, and that was because of that sensor. So this thing was probably changed. Hard to see, hard to tell. But you really don't want to start pulling these things out. I ended up having that cleaned, and well, the guy cleaned it on me. He didn't realize that I wasn't going to do the heads. I told him, I told you, don't do anything. Don't do anything until I get the go-ahead, So I got this engine for $150. Had to drive from Long Island to Atlantic City to get it, but it's pretty buttoned up. It doesn't look like this thing has a ton of leaks. I drained a decent amount of oil out. I already dumped out the pan, but it definitely seemed full. And I don't like these manifolds because all the bolts are broken. Like I said, all his bolts came out when I had done it, so I'm going to reuse those. And look at it. I look at all this stuff now, but in reality, it was going to run. I knew it was going to run. You have to get a feel for people. That's why I don't like necessarily buying them off junkyards, because they don't really know. They do. You can get a good idea if you drive it, but they're trying to sell an engine. But like when I had a shop, they don't want a shop giving you a bad name. This is a long time ago. 25 years ago, I was paying $500 for an engine, and it would always run. The guy goes, "Listen, I'm not going to give you a shitty motor. Just pay $500 for most of the motors I got, and you'll never get a bad motor from me." I said, "Okay." And he was local. He would deliver a motor in 15 minutes if you had it out of the car, so it's pretty good when I had my shop. That being said, all bets are off, going on 30 years later. 23 to 25. That's how long ago I had my shop. When you're honest, you don't make a lot of money. Anyway, I'm going to get to taking this down. I already unplugged the spark plugs, but I just want a basic engine. I'm going to eliminate all of the emission controls on this for the most part, but I am going to leave the computerized carburetor and the computerized distributor, the oxygen sensor, which it gets feedback from, and the air pump system is just, it took me 5 hours to remove the heads off that car, because it took me 2.5 hours to get to the heads. The amount of crap that is on the engine is just outlandish in 87 on a Cadillac, and I guess for this car too. This was out of a Caprice Classic. So I think this is going to work out just fine, and you won't even know the difference. And I know for a fact, because I did this like on an 83 Oldsmobile before, like recently. I eliminated a lot of this shit, and what do you call it? The check engine light never went on. There was a problem with the carburetor, check engine light came on. And if you unplug something from the carburetor, check engine light comes on. So I'm pretty sure you can eliminate the whole air pump system, and probably just reuse the old coolant temperature sensor, things like that. So it'll still be computer controlled. And the main reason why I even do this, number one, carburetors are expensive to come by. So in order to convert it to full, manual, you'd have to get the distributor, which is no problem. They're $50 for Chinese brand new ones. But the carburetor is expensive. So in lieu of that, and also the main thing is the transmission. The lockup in the transmission has to work. If it doesn't work, you're going to have a huge problem, and you're going to end up, blowing up your training, So, that being said, it looks like he took the bracket off here. He doesn't have, what was the, yeah, so there's some things I got to use. I noticed there were some things gone. It was selectively taken out, like the power brake booster, like, brake booster line. It's a bunch of little things, but that's why you have a whole other engine for. This is why it's good to buy it kind of like this, So I don't see it being too much of a problem. This hasn't been removed in who knows how long. People think that this is just part of the engine. They're replaceable. All right, now I'm really going to get to work. The hole. Started prepping this one as well. I'm going to take a much needed day off tomorrow though. Alright, so this is the old engine without the heads. Original time and chain. I know it has 124,000 miles. It's a little bit in better shape, which means it probably had a few more oil changes than the other one. But super, super stretched. So it's a matter of time before these teeth start falling off. Whereas this one, it actually started to, the teeth started to chip away. You can see right there. And it's really slacked. So it's a big problem with these, because first of all, it plays with the timing. It'll run hot, you know, as it is, you know, and then if you overheat it, and you're finished, you know. So this was definitely worth doing the time machine, because this is the time to do it. The only thing that's different is the oil fill here, and that was because the way the Cadillac had the components situated. You know, it may or may not be in the way. I somehow doubt it. I really feel that it was the reason why it was slanted like this was because of the air pump. And I know that this one probably had an air pump too, but it's straight. You know, more conventional. It could be something. You know, and basically that's how they make things for Cadillacs different all the time. They switch things up. You know, they like to do that to make it more special, you know. So it's like I would have a problem put the engine in if I was putting the air pump in and all that stuff, unless I change this. I really haven't popped one of those out before, and I've seen people do it. What am I doing? Yeah, like I think you got to slide this out and pop it from there, or you just try to muscle it out, you know. I hate to grab it, you know, like to get something to hold it better, and then pop it out, kind of like an oil screen installer for a Chevy, something like that. Don't know what I'll do yet. We'll see. Maybe put a clamp around it and hit the clamp, something along those lines. Lots of fun. It's amazing how they use Chevy mounts on this car. And that way they could put either motor when the time came, I guess. But they moved the brackets forward a bit, as they had to. But definitely made for Oldsmobiles that don't blow mounts then. So I'm going to take a day off or two and then get back on this. So lots of stuff to do. Holy shit, it worked. At one point though, I hammered that on and I put my gun on it, and unfortunately this broke off the other day. This was loose for a while and then it just took it, but now I cracked there and the whole thing broke. That's not good. Ugh. There's always an issue with these newer, you know, like in the last 15 years, engine hoists. And these old cars with these big ass bumpers, and it's a long way before you hit the motor. You gotta lay the motor down on the frame just kind of haphazardly. I actually drilled this hole recently just to move this original bolt here instead of here. But I always used to put it at the end. So now I have all this. I might be drilling this out next time. Even if I just put a 5/16 bolt so it doesn't go through. Or maybe weld a bushing in there that's heavy. Something like that. Or just get a temporary arm that's longer just for doing this. Obviously you can't lift it all the way in. This worked. But, you know, it's one of those things. Oh, that was funny. I shoved this all the way in too. So it's close to the edge, I gather, but that flat piece of metal should hold something. Might be better on the bottom in this case. I just hope it comes out. See how it's bending the bottom? That's what it always did though. I probably didn't go out this far. It actually looks like it's pulling out. So I gotta reposition this and figure it out. Oh hell yeah. So this is really still an issue. So ultimately what I I did. I got it up, and ultimately all I got was, you know, from there to there. I mean, it's hardly 3 inches. And what I did is I pushed down hard on the water pump, and now there's still some tension on it, but it's just sitting on top of the motor mount. I think I have to release the chain a bit now. If I release the chain, it'll be longer, and then I can maybe push it, swing it more. But it's tricky, you know, it really is. So I got to end up solving this, because this has always been an issue, like the F-body Camaros, you know, from 82 to 92. All these big Cadillacs, the big B-bodies in general. I mean, this is not much bigger than a regular B-body, at least the front, you know. So, got to figure this out. Alrighty. So I know this looks super dangerous, but it's pretty much wedged in there. Plus I got this extra piece of metal. And if the engine is not actually coming up, then don't do it. You know, if it just keeps bending and you see this moving, it's not gonna work, obviously. So, but I think I should be able to get it now. I push it like that, and you see what I have here. I have the transmission all the way jacked up to the top. So this is what I found that works very, very good. Chevy or the Buick Old Pontiac. And basically what you got here is, right now they're at a similar angle, so that's a good thing. But, you know, ultimately I have this go into here, the pin. I don't know if you can see it. Hang on a second. So the pin, if the pin is here and this is here, what happens is you start pushing it in, it doesn't go in, but as long as you touch it there, what you do is then you lower the jack. When you lower the jack, this will come down and go boom, flush right on it in one shot. I've done it probably 100 times, you know. So once I figure that out, that's a big deal. Hang on, my light is... Everything I own is breaking on me. My poor impact gun died. Blew it up. Exploded. Anyway. I don't know if I can get this on camera or not. Can we see what's going on here? Not really. I might get the gist of it. Actually, not really. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work going landscape after I've gone the other way. Portrait. Okay, so there's the motor mount in there. This is the front of the metal bracket. Okay, this is the rear of the bracket. Apparently it's just above it. So when I push down and push away from me, it just goes over like that. So if I hold this tight, okay, question is, did I get it? I think I did. Okay. Okay, so it's pretty much over the mount. This side probably not. It's close. Yeah, this side looks like it needs to go more, but it might just be much easier to finagle now. So, like I said, I don't know about real time. Let me try this again. Mike needs a tripod. Alright, can't really see much there, but sometimes, because you see how I'm balancing it on the weight of the engine, you can not worry about the transmission at first, and just try to get this motor over. release the weight. But if obviously you release it too much, then the other mount is going to come out. See, like that's the most you'd want to do. It might help to have a bar or a big screwdriver. Let's see. And sometimes you just drop it hard and it'll fall right into place. But sometimes it's not a bad thing to try to go a little bit further so you don't have to do that. Yeah, it's so close. So I did here. Kind of wet the screwdriver, but that didn't work. It's awfully close. And then sometimes it's good to see what you got going on here as far as the back. Because it might be a matter of, lifting something up or down. See, it's like so close now. It's like practically there. So this is one of those times where if you lower the tranny, you actually gain more space. However, I kind of don't like to do that right now, because ultimately what would be good is if you can do that. You could do that and then bolt on a bolt, and once the tranny's tight, the tranny ain't going nowhere, so then it'll kind of fall back where it needs to go. But I still kind of want to push this side a little bit more, and I'm going to need a little more. No sense wasting film if I can't really film it properly. But it's not much more work. It's literally right there. Now I wish I filmed it, because it just actually, I dropped it hard like I said, and went boom, right in its mount. I really should have the light on the camera. And this one felt like it went into. It's right there. Now we go to the back, and this is where you see the tranny looks like it's higher than the engine, right? I'm gonna see. I'd love to see what happens. Okay. Oh, look at that. Oh, I had it perfect. Come on. Okay. This is good lighting if the light doesn't knock over the phone. Okay. So hopefully when I lower it, it doesn't knock everything over. But you can kind of lower it pretty fast too. Shouldn't be an issue. So I just did it that much. Okay. So this is where we get a little crafty. So I'm lowering the rest of it, and right now it's binded against the transmission. So that's good. So I'm lowering it down. I'm going to put that hook on the back hole. Yeah, it would be nice if it fit on the back hole. Well, then we do the middle hole. Ain't got much of a choice, Mike. All right. This is where it may be better to actually like jack up the tranny again to make sure that it doesn't pass the point, because the tranny has all its weight ready to go down, and even just have it up a little bit. That's what we need. So I have it up. Now I'm going to make the engine go at the same level, and you can see it like trying to straighten itself out. Boom. Okay. So basically, it doesn't quite look like it's lined up, but I don't have the tranny jacked up all the way. It might help in this case. Not all the way, but yeah. When you hear a little pop and hear something move, it gets closer. And now when you lower it on the engine side, it looks like it's falling nice and flush. And you see the engine is just slightly above the tranny because it's hitting those pins. those alignment pins on the engine to the transmission. So now you lower this guy, and I just lowered it. Look what happened. It's so close. Oh, it's closer on one side than the other. It's alright. It's alright. I never sit there and go crazy. Look, I can watch when I jack it up. The tranny is like turning, but you can't go too much. See, now I can actually just drop it again. Because, you know, one pin would line up. See, that looks pretty close. And now when you drop the transmission, let's see how close I am, if I'm close. And, okay, again with the pin on this side. And I can play with bars and shit like that. But ultimately, I really want to get it from the back, but it's actually not bad. Okay, now that seemed like it fell right into place. Now, I think I still had it kind of lowered. Yeah, that is in as far as I'm concerned. Now again, sometimes if you lower this too much, it'll pass the point. So I only did so much. So I just lowered it on the tranny side. Didn't seem to move much. That's a good thing. And now when you drop this, did not seem like it moved. Yeah, it did. Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that's lined up. So watch when I vigorously drop the tranny now all the way. Boom. That's going to be in. That's how confident I am. Bam! There's like a, you know, it's not even an eighth of an inch. You know. And now when you, see the weight of the car went down? That tranny is in. There's no fumbling. There's no bumbling. That is flush. I didn't have to go crazy and to keep going back down on my back and then up again and back and cursing and everything like that. Common sense rules the day, you know, when you do these kind of things. This goes with any engine, any GM engine. It'll work on a Chevy. It'll work on the Oldsmobiles. It'll work on the Cadillacs. It'll work on the Pontiacs and Buicks. Once you get it in the mounts here and you have the back, the ass end up, you basically hold this phone up. But if this is your engine and you have it lifted up in the back, I'm looking at it like from the driver's side point of view, and this is the tranny. You lower the tranny, lower the jet. You lower the tranny, lower the engine, lower the, you know, and vice versa. Which, you know, then you go up a little bit if it's not lined up, because once one pin is in, it'll kind of stay in. But you're still, because you're at that angle and the pins are at the bottom, you know, the pin doesn't want to go up. If you keep jacking up, it'll go, it'll rip out and it'll go way higher. You know, you learn that from experience. But, I mean, it couldn't have gone in any better than that. You know, it really couldn't have, you know. So, I would say that is the proper way to put in an engine on a GM rear-wheel drive. Works every time. If you just use some common sense, get the height right, and when you jack it up all the way to begin with, the tranny is all the way up, but it's all the way level. And you're trying to get the engine in level, and the engines in the mounts is level. But it's okay to have it in the mounts, but the ass up. And then the two halves come together, they fit like a glove. One more thought as I'm collapsing down the engine hoist. You see, usually I like to get help, you know, because it does make it easier when somebody knows what they're doing. And I try to get a friend because I don't have to pay them. But I can't tell you how many times I'm like, go up with the jack, go down with the jack, go up with the jack. And it's like, it really depends on your help. So it's like, I literally just had the easiest time just doing it by myself. And this is a higher degree of difficulty, being that the boom is not where it has to be. But even then, just putting that engine in when you have a tranny in is a whole, you know, another ball game compared to putting the whole thing in. And some cars it's easy to put the engine and tranny in, and some cars it is not, because it is all over the place, and you got to take out more stuff, and yeah, you got to take out more bolts this way, but it's still a pain in the neck going the other way as far as I'm concerned. Especially if you don't have to move out, you know, you don't have to take out the tranny. It's one thing if you got to fix the tranny too, but in any case, if you have a friend that doesn't know, like we all have that friend that doesn't know how to use a jack, it's like all the way on, all the way off. Like how many times a header panel almost got killed because a friend can't just go like this. It's like, it's not going, it's not going. And it's just hilarious how they can't grasp that, you know. And I'm like, it's not that hard. You just be patient, and you know, you got to think down as it's going down too. You know, that helps, you know. But in any case, that's the point I want to try to make: is be careful of your help, because that can make the whole job harder sometimes, even though it's not intended. Well, it's getting dark. I've had enough. I just got about everything in. I got to do all the vacuum lines tomorrow and figure that out. I'm eliminating a lot of the emissions, but I pretty much got everything going here. It's really all about vacuum lines and the distributor cap and the wires. I got to route those, and should be able to test drive it. But now I got to push it so I can close the garage door. It's going to be hard. It's got an extra 500-600 pounds in there now. So I had this running the next morning, and I test drove it, but I got 4 codes, and I know I eliminated the whole, you know, air pump system, but I've done it before on these cars, and you never get a code. It's kind of like a phantom thing where the computer runs it, but it doesn't trigger the code. So I mean, you get something that runs a lot better, and it's pretty quiet. You can hear the carburetor actually clicking. But the exhaust is loud, the rest of the exhaust. And I took out the tube for the catalytic converter. I heated up the pipe, and I screwed in a 7/16 bolts in there. So that was louder before, but it's running really, really nice. It's a really good motor. That being said, the carburetor that was on it looked like it was rebuilt, but I got 4 codes with it. And I'd asked my friend, I'm like, did you have any codes in this car? And he was like, no, you know. But in the end, I still have 1 code, and I don't know if it'll clear itself out. I don't know if it has something to do with it, like sitting and the carburetor being on its side. But it's a TPS sensor code. So I put his original carburetor back on, and I had to find the gasket. Right now, it's funny how now that I'm making a video, I don't have the code. But it was, again, giving a TPS code, but it wasn't giving the other codes. And the other codes were like, it said something about the, something with the ignition. So I changed the distributor back to his original distributor, and it ran the same way and had the same code. So some people said that, because I don't know everything about these computerized carburetors. I was eliminating them in the 90s. But I didn't know I could eliminate it like this. The only reason why first of all, price. I'd have to buy a new distributor and buy a new carburetor, because the carburetor runs, but it's probably running a little rich because of this, but it needs that sensor in there, unless it corrects itself. Maybe it was just needed a few, parables parameters that actually straightened it out. But the, what do you call it? The problem is that you have to get a non-computer carburetor, which is not always easy to find, and they're expensive. And the thing is, I would have to get into the transmission to make sure that the lockup would activate on a different in a different way. Like with a mechanical electrical switch with a different pressure sensor in the transmission, because you will blow it, and if you keep driving in overdrive without the lockup going in. So so I did a lot of adjustments to this one. I got it running fairly well, and I kept getting that check engine light on. Now I'm surprised, and the check engine light would, like, if I reset it and then I would rev the gas, wouldn't come on, and then when I let it go down, that's when it will come on. So I think the TPS was triggering other things, but right now I'm actually not getting the code. This is the first time I'm not getting the code. So I got my mechanical gauge down there. Isn't really a lot of places in a Cadillac to put it. This is all like angled. I really didn't want to screw into the dashboard so much, even though it's torn up a little bit. But it's really for reference. The light works, because if if you crank the engine, that's the temp. So it's a new temp sensor, so it should go on no matter what. So bulb is good. It's running outstanding though. This carburetor had the other one had an electrical choke, which I had to run the wire and I had to buy the wire and, you know, the little end, and I ended up not using it now, and I used the wire for the ground and for the power inside to run that gauge, but I had to buy this guy. Ended up being, the other one was riveted, and just spending a lot of time getting it running right is just kind of unfair to me, because in the end it's just like, it still has a check engine light on, whatnot, you know, so. But I'm quite happy with the way it's running right now. So, I guess that's it for this video. Success, and he needs an exhaust system. Other than that, it's running good. You know, I had the car delivered here last Friday. I pulled out the engine on Saturday, the short block there. I got the other engine prepped. I also started prepping that engine. I started tearing other things off, but then I changed the gaskets and cleaned it up and did the timing chain, not on Monday, but I think it was on Tuesday, because I was doing something else on Monday, I forgot. And then I got the engine in on Wednesday, worked till about 9 o'clock at night, and then I got it running yesterday, and I test drove it. And today I got here real late, and I got here yesterday late. I've just been so beat, can't get out of the house. But I ended up doing this carburetor and playing with it all day, from 1 o'clock, and now it's 4:22. Not all day. I got here late, so about another 3 hours though. It's not necessarily fun. I don't know where this guy went, or if he was part of the car when I originally got it. But I'll take a quick look in the trunk if there's any spare parts there. But all right, thanks for watching. Just figured I'd throw this in. I did this pretty quick, so make a little video about it.